My name is Priscilla Henklemen, and I joined Rotary when I was a young, single professional. And at that time, I was working for the state of Nebraska in the State Mental Health Agency, and I joined Rotary because I was asked by a colleague whom I respected, Dr. Klaus Hartman. I knew a little bit about Rotary, having had several acquaintances who had been Rotary ambassadorial scholars, and I liked the fact that Rotary was international in scope. But at the time I joined, I didn't know too much more about Rotary than that. And the club opened its arms to me. I have had as much opportunity to be involved as I possibly could handle. First of all, I did some work with community services, and then very soon thereafter, I got involved in Rotary's worldwide efforts. And 6 years after I joined Rotary, I married a fellow Rotarian, Sandy Grossbart. We have 2 grown children, 2 grandchildren, and also a young son. The club has provided me so many opportunities to serve. I've had the privilege of serving on the club's board, the club's foundation board, chairing several different committees. For me, Rotary is smart, committed, interesting people with as many opportunities to serve as my own time and other obligations permit. I have a couple Rotary highlights. There's so many that I can't even possibly begin to go through all of them in the time we have available. But a couple of the highlights that I'll just mention, because maybe they haven't been mentioned by others, is I had the chance to travel with a number of other Rotarians from this club to the Dominican Republic. At that time, we were dealing with the very first worldwide matching grant that this club had applied for to provide rehab equipment to a clinic in the Dominican Republic. The clinic was in a town called San Pedro de Macorís, and we were there right when the equipment arrived on the ground in the Dominican Republic, and it was just getting into the process of being set up into a rehab clinic. And then subsequent to that, and kind of right along with that, I worked with a number of other members of this club to continue applying for matching grants to do worldwide projects that levered the dollars that our club members donated with dollars provided by Rotary International to fund various medical projects in the Dominican Republic, at least 3 or 4 matching grants. And on a related note, I'm very, very proud that our club's foundation does designate up to 10% of its money that it grants out annually to go to worldwide projects, with the other 90% being used right here in our community. I think that's a wonderful balance, and it reflects Rotary's not only strong community presence, but worldwide presence. So that would be one thing I'm proud of. A couple other things. I did have the opportunity to travel in a limo with a number of other Rotarians some years ago with Governor Frank Morrison and Mrs. Morrison to go see the Nebraska Archway. It was an item that had been donated to one of the great Rotary auctions, and several of us had bought it. And we had the opportunity to actually be with the Nebraska living history legend himself, Mr. Frank Morrison. He told us stories the whole way there and back, including some stories about how he sat on the opposite side of the courtroom from Senator Carl T. Curtis, who was Mr. Carl T. Curtis at that time in western Nebraska. And it was just very, very fascinating and really an honor to listen to that gentleman. In 1998, I was serving on the Youth Exchange Committee, and at that time, our committee had a little bit of a problem. We had an inbound student coming in from France, from the Loire Valley of France, and we had no host family. So, we just kept waiting week after week. Nobody volunteered. In the meantime, my husband Sandy and I had a trip to Colorado planned, and I made up a Rotary meeting at the Estes Park Club. At that time, I happened to meet an outbound youth exchange student returning back to Belgium after a year in Colorado, and I thought to myself, how bad can this be to host a student for 3 months? So I went home and told my husband that I thought we should be a host parents for a boy coming in from France. He was adamantly against this and strongly counseled me that this would be a terrible idea. Why, for all we knew, the boy was on drugs. He could be drinking. He could be out partying. He might not fit in. We didn't have kids in the house. This was just a terrible idea. But I thought, no, I think we can handle it. I looked over the boy's application and I thought, he's a good kid. So now this boy is 35 years old. He's an integral part of our family. We had a wonderful experience being host parents through Rotary. And we continue to stay very heavily involved. This young man who's 35 now and his wife are expecting their first child in March. So I guess that will make me a host grandmother through Rotary. And it's been an honor also to make up Rotary Club in Rotary clubs around the world. The most interesting place I made up was the downtown Tokyo Club, which is very different from our club and, of course, a very good opportunity to learn. I guess Rotary to me is about the people, the friendships, the fellowship based on mutual respect and caring, and of course, the worldwide commitment to service, including polio eradication. This is what Rotary means to me. It's been one of the best parts of my life since I joined this club, and I guess I thank you for the opportunity to share that. Well, I'd say if there's people that you respect in your field or other fields that are a member of this club and they invite you to, I mean, to me, I knew very little about Rotary when I joined other than it was worldwide in scope, and I joined, I hit the ground running, and it was one of the best decisions I made. I would strongly encourage them to consider it. Nowadays, I probably would do more research, but at the time, in fact, at the time I joined, I didn't even realize there was an attendance requirement. Klaus told me that the first week I showed up. I'm like, oh, okay. But it's just a really worthwhile organization. So I would just strongly encourage them to consider it.